Hello, Veers Spell. It's been a while. I've been sick. So I was gonna do return to What If Asta was in Fairytale. But then I realized I never made a compilation video of the last three parts I did. So I'm gonna do this. This should allow everyone to kind of catch up on the What If, and then I can return to the What If. The other series I'm going to be returning to is What If Midoriya Was a Jedi? Now, without further ado, let's get to this compilation video. Sorry for it being a little shorter. These videos were rather short. As Urza would leave the guild hall, the number would go up as Mistigan entered the town. Meanwhile, Asta would be hurtling towards the town in his black form. He would touch down outside of town and move forward, since he didn't want to scare everyone. As he would be caught in a couple enchantments, but just bring his sword and cut through them. At the church, Freed would ask Loxus if he should go confront Asta. As Loxus would say, no, Asta's power is far too good of a matchup against yours. I must confront him myself. Go secure the rest of town. If Urza catches Evergreen, I don't think Evergreen can win. As we would flash over to that fight, and Urza winning, it would go like in canon. This would release the other female members of Fairytail. As the number of participants would go up, Asta would be sensing for Loxus's key and would start heading towards the church. He wouldn't know that Natsu was trapped in the guild hall or any of that, so he would just go straight to confront Loxus. Urza would begin looking for Loxus, but like in canon, this would be taking her all over the place. As Mistigan would arrive at the church, him and Loxus would confront each other as he would trap Loxus in an illusion, with Loxus breaking out of it. With Asta arriving, Loxus, knowing that he had to take this serious with both Mistigan and Asta here, as he started unleashing his Dragon Slayer magic. As Asta, despite already using it once today, would go into his black form. The battle would be fierce. Mistigan and Loxus would normally have been fairly evenly matched, but with Asta it would tip the scale. With Asta either cutting through or bouncing back most of Loxus's attacks. Loxus would be pushed up against the wall, with parts of the church being destroyed. As the battle would keep going, Loxus would destroy Mistigan's mask. Mistigan would not really feel concerned about this because Asta already knew what his face looked like, being how Asta actually met Mistigan before he was going through the Mistigan persona. I'll elaborate on that later. As Loxus would be panting, with Asta having his Black Asta form, which had turned the fight into a complete one-sided match. Mistigan even more or less providing a support role for Asta. Loxus saying, I didn't even realize you got a new form. So, I guess you combined Mary Jane's takeover magic with your own anti-magic ability somehow? With Asta responding, yeah. You probably would have known. I probably would have told you after the festival if you hadn't pulled this stunt. As Loxus would start to have dragon scales going up and down his body. As they would hear Urza from outside saying, We're gonna get you, Loxus! As Mistigan was caught off guard, trying to think of what to do, as Loxus, using his superior speed, would use a lightning dragon claw to hit Mistigan. Mistigan would be slammed against the wall, Asta being sure some of his ribs were cracked. Urza would come through the door, see Mistigan against the wall as he would vanish. She would quickly shake her head as she would put on her Thunder Empress armor. With that, the already tired Loxus would get pushed up against the wall. As Natsu and Gajiel would arrive, Loxus would be defeated. As Natsu would say, Oh, come on! I want to fight him too! Asta would have a sad smile on his face, saying, Well, I guess we beat you to it. As Urza would start to ask questions about Mistigan, as Asta just said, that's not for him to say. Urza would not stop, though. And Asta would pull a disappearing act with Loxus being defeated, the Thunder Palace would disable itself by self-destructing, making everyone believe it was fireworks. Later that evening, as Asta got back to the guild hall, he found out that Makarov had a minor heart attack. And Loxus would be kicked from the guild. Some members of the guild thought Loxus should be forgiven for his actions, but Asta felt it was necessary. Though he felt Makarov should have at least said that maybe one day he'll be able to return, Loxus would leave, telling Thunder Legion that they should stay, since Makarov wasn't expelling them too. As the festival would continue with the floats, with Natsu's being much more impressive since he wasn't wrapped in bandages. Asta would stand atop of one of the floats with his Demon Dweller sword raised high.
Hello, editor here. I apologize for some of the audio in this if it is kind of bad. Still trying to figure out how to use this mic. And let's begin. This what if, just going over, we'll skip some of the filler, like hilariously when I think Fairytail did a Naruto reference. But talking about some more canon-y stuff, Lucy, she would restore some relationship with her father. Not by much. Much though. Still a very much work in progress. And we would begin with Fairytail taking a job at a restaurant, with Lucy just saying, "Jeez, why is this uniform so tacky?" gesturing to it, as Pappy would be wearing a little suit, while Natsu was being the worst waiter eating the customer's food. As Gray would just say, "Well, we aren't doing this to pay your rent." As Lucy just said, "I know, but, can you put on some more clothes? I don't think you're wearing the right uniform for the establishment." As Gray would just look down and realize that, yes, this does not look good at all. As multiple people in the restaurant would be blushing, as Urza was getting really into waitressing. They would end the day's work, and Natsu and Gray would get banned from working at the restaurant ever again. They would return to Fairytail and see a weird board with a lot of circles. As Asta just said, "Hey, how's your job?" As Lucy would just say, "Mixed. How about you?" Asta would just say, "No problem. Someone needed help getting rid of a spell, and I got hired for that." As Lucy said, "What's up with the giant board?" Asta would look over and say, "Mary Jane had that drawn up. It's all the dark guilds. Or at least most." As Lucy's like, "Dark guilds?" As Urza would walk up and say, "There's more than I thought." Mary Jane would respond with, "Yes, they've been more active recently, so everyone should be reminded about all this." As Lucy would say, "What's up with the big circle in the middle?" As Mary Jane would explain that that's the Barm Alliance, a collection of the 3 most powerful dark guilds with a number of smaller guilds underneath them. The Ration Sais, the Grimoire Heart, and Tartaros. As Gray would just say, "I didn't realize Eisenwald was part of the Barm Alliance." As Juvia said, "Yeah, most of the guilds me and Ganjil destroyed were part of the Ration Sais faction, except Fairytail, but we're all friends now." As Asta just said, "You might not want to remind everyone." As Makarov would walk in. As Makarov said, "And we're going to be fighting them." As everyone's jaws would be almost to the floor, as Mira Jane would just ask, "How are you doing, Master?" As everyone's just like, "That's the first question you have?" As Urza would have a stern face. As Makarov would go on, "The Ration Sais have been making concerning moves. And with the Magic Council still not officially fully restored. It's up to us to confront the issue. As Gray said, so, we're gonna have to fight him? As Makarov says, no. There's no way we would survive the retaliation of the entire Barum Alliance. Instead, we're doing a coalition. As everyone would be a little bit surprised, as even Asta said, coalition? As Makarov nodded. Coalition will be made up of Fairytail, Blue Pegasus, Lamia Scale, and Kate Shelter. Each one will select members to join this combat group. As Asta said, I can take him on by myself. As Urza would knock him in the head and say, don't be a fool. As Lucy would just say, well, they sound really tough. As someone else would say, well, I heard the Arrestian Sace only has 6 members. Shouldn't be that hard. As someone else said, yeah, but said that each of the members can take out a guild single-handedly. As Lucy would be concerned. As Asta would ask, who's going? Makarov said, I'll tell you in the morning. I haven't made up my mind yet. As the night would be tense. As the next morning, the representatives from Fairytail would be announced. As Makarov stood at the high point of the Fairytail Guild Hall. And he would announce, Urza Scarlet, Natsu Dragneel, Asta, Grey Fullbuster, Lucy Heartphilia. As Lucy would just be like, why me? And Juvia would be lamenting the fact that she didn't get to go. As the team would go off to the rendezvous point. As when they got there, someone asked, so where are we meeting? As Urza would just say, we're meeting at the Blue Pegasus Guildmaster's second home. As Gray would just say, ugh. Right, Bob. As Urza would just say, he might be a little, eccentric, but he still deserves our respect. As Lucy would just say, wait, isn't it against the law for guilds to go to war? Urza would say, normally yes, but with the Magic Council not officially being in operation, and technically dark guilds aren't recognized, we should be just fine. As Natsu, since they'd be in a cart, would be throwing up. As Natsu would be sick, and Asta would be helping hold Natsu, half of Natsu's body outside the cart in case he threw up. As Happy would just say, careful, don't drop him. Asta responding, don't worry, it's not the first time I've had to do this. As they would arrive at the meeting point. As they would walk in, it wouldn't seem like anyone was home until they would hear several people saying, they finally arrived. As the Blue Pegasus members would come out. As Asta would just say, is it just me or do they look like a boy band? The Blue Pegasus members would make their introduction. Being Eve, Ren, and Hibiki. Would all make their introductions and start flattering Lucy and Urza. As Natsu just said, can you be serious for 1 minute? You're not being hired to flirt with women. As one of them would just say, oh, it's you, Asta. As Asta just said, yeah, I remember the last time I ran into one of you guys. As Gray just said, wait, you ran into him? Yeah, remember a little while ago? As Gray just said, oh yeah, that one. When you, as Asta just said, never speak of that again. I thought I made you agree to never speak of that again. Sniff, sniff. Is that my honey I smell? As Urza just starts shaking. No, not him. As Asta said, oh, Oh, that guy. With Natsu and Gray confused, as Ichigo would make his presence known, as he did on almost staged entrance. As Asta just said, stay 5 feet away from us, and we should be good. As the Blue Pegasus members would say, Ichigo, you know him? He says, yes. We went on a couple missions together. And my love, Urza. As Urza just said, I am not your girlfriend and I never was. As Asta just said, didn't I tell you that next time I saw you in the same room, this wouldn't end well? As he started pulling out his sword. As Ichigo just said, I'm sorry. As Gray just said, I don't know who you guys Playboy wannabes are, but Urza and Lucy are members of our guild. As Ichigo just said, yes, my apologies. Now, all 3 of you can leave. As Asta, nearly losing it, would just draw out his sword and say, that's it, I'm killing him. Urza just saying, they're supposed to be our allies. No, don't do that, Asta. As the 2 sides would heat up, as Ichigo would get incredibly creepy and get into Urza's personal space. She would completely freak out and give him a right hook, with Asta actually bouncing him away from the door into the 2nd floor. As the others would say, boss! As Lamia Scale would arrive, with Leon now being a member. Gray and Leon would meet and exchange cold pleasantry, as a member of the 10 Wizard Saints would also be with them, Jura. As Urza would tell him that it's nice to meet him. As Asta said, I think the last people are arriving. As the person would trip and fall. After that, they would introduce themselves as Wendy. Wendy Marvel. As Asta would just say, Natsu, isn't that the person you wanted to ask a few questions?
Sorry for some of the changes in pitches and tones. This is me after I finish editing at 9:39 at night. But I do sincerely hope you enjoy. We begin this what if with Wendy introducing herself right after she tripped. As everyone would be surprised that Kate Shelter would send someone so young. As Carla would walk up and start acting prim and proper. As everyone would be kind of surprised. Even Asta. As the Blue Pegasus members were about to introduce themselves to Wendy, Asta just said, do it, and I will hit each of you with my sword. As they just stop. As Urza said, yes, now that everyone's here, we should begin the briefing. As the Blue Pegasus members nodded. As they pulled up one of their members started using a type of magic called Archive. As he started displaying information about the Irration Seis. As he started with Cobra, the Snake Wizard. Not much is known, but he has a snake. And seems to use a type of poison magic. Racer. Judging from his name, he's probably uses speed. You have Angel. The only female of the group. She's beautiful, but equally dangerous. You then have Divine Eye's Hot Eye. He is willing to wipe out an entire military company if the price is right. Besides that, we have a member who's so mysterious, all we know is his code name is Midnight. No idea if that has anything to do with his actual power. Then you have their leader, Brain. We outnumber them in numbers. But they're incredibly dangerous. Each one is
capable of wiping out a guild single-handedly. And we also believe they're here for a unique magic within the wood. Unless we stop them. As the Blue Pegasus members who are explaining this posed, Lucy and Asta just said, I am so over the posing already. As Gray said, yeah, same here. As Natsu said, alright, looks like we're hunting some demons. As he ran off, with Happy seemingly developing a crush on Carla. Asta thinking, I'm gonna tease him about this later. As the Fairytail group said, how much do you want to bet Asta didn't even hear a thing we were talking about? As Happy says, I bet 5 fish. As they took off running. As Leon and Sherry followed them along with the Blue Pegasus members. And boy, I'm gonna have trouble remembering all the names and people in this arc. As they followed, Ichiya would ask Jura about the 10 Wizard Saints. As Jura just said, to compare me to any of the upper echelon is like comparing a mountain to a rock. I was simply given a position because they recognized my strength. As Ichiya says, is that so? As Jura said, ugh, what's that smell? As he went to his knees. As Ichiya poofed into Gemini, as Angel walked out and said, so, seems that we know the plan. As Gemini complained about Ichiya having perverted thoughts. As we flashed over to the others, as Asta, Gray, and Urza managed to catch up with Natsu, with Urza saying, slow down, with Asta saying, yeah, are you scared I'm gonna take them down without leaving you any? As Urza just looked at him and said, stop moving your feet right now, or so help me, as Natsu just fell off the cliff. As Asta's just like, wait, where's Happy? As they decide to follow him down. When they get there, they meet up with Natsu. As Blue Pegasus reveal that they brought their magic bomber Christina. Also thinking it looked kind of flashy. As it exploded, as 3 members of the Russian Sace appeared and started wrecking house on everyone. Despite there just being 4 members, almost none of them managed to get hits in, while the Russian Sace members managed to keep the advantage. Even with all the Blue Pegasus members except Ichiya and Leon and Sherry also be fighting, as Asta seemed to be the only one who was actually managing to fend off attacks. But even he couldn't land direct hits. As Urza would get poisoned by Cobra, as the rest of the Russian Sace would arrive. Brain would see Wendy recognizing her and kidnapping her. He would also launch a large-scale attack that would take everyone else by surprise. They thought they were goners until Jura managed to get there just in the nick of time, shielding them, with the Russian Sace escaping. So, that is the compilation video for parts 18, 19, and 20. And man, 19 was kind of a bad transition. Using a new mic, and yeah, that mic is good. Just, it has specific things you have to do to make it sound good. But other than that, I sincerely hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any suggestions on how to improve my videos, please leave them in the comments. If this content interests you, please like, share, and subscribe. And hope to see you around the channel. This will be Spellree, signing off.